नमस्कार दोस्तों, वेलकम बैक एट लिट ई सिटी यूट्यूब चैनल। दोस्तों, आज we will discuss about contributions made by Abhinavagupta into the field of Indian classical aesthetics, focusing especially on his concept of Śānta Rasa, which is basically part of his commentary on Bharat Muni's नाट्य शास्त्र। तो दोस्तों, स्टार्ट करते हैं आज का वीडियो। फर्स्ट, लेट्स हैव अ ब्रीफ इंट्रोडक्टरी नोट ऑन द राइटर एंड क्रिटिक Abhinavagupta. दोस्तों, Abhinavagupta was one of the most profound and versatile philosophers, mystics, and literary theorists of medieval India. In fact, he has such a brilliant studies. He was such a brilliant scholar and also a master that he reshaped the way Indian philosophy, the way the Indian aesthetics were considered. He was born in Kashmir around about 950. It was obviously a very golden period of his scholarship in Kashmir at that time. He was a towering figure in tradition of Kashmiri Shaivism, especially the monastic Ekatma thought, and he also made very important contribution in Pratyabhigya Darshan, which is a branch of monastic thought. Monastic thought which considered that there is only one Atma, Ekatma, there is no multiplicity of God. Not only in this particular field of philosophy, theist philosophy, but also in aesthetics, in theology, in literary criticism, he has done some outstanding works. He was one of the what we call in Indian context Medhavi. His brilliance, his intellect was very remarkable. He left an indelible mark, a permanent mark on Indian intellectual and spiritual tradition. Some of his major work, which will give us an idea about the range of his intellectuality vigor. First important work is Tantra Lok, Light on the Tantras. It is considered as his magnum opus. It is a cornerstone. It is one of the most significant books on tantric philosophy. Then Pratyabhigya Vimarshini, which is his treatise on Pratyabhigya philosophy or monastic Shaivism, monastic thought. Then he also wrote Dhvanyāloka Locana. As the name indicate, it is a commentary on his predecessors Anand Vardhan's Dhvanyāloka, the theory of suggestion. Uske upar he has written this commentary. And the work which we are concerned at present, Abhinavabhāratī, it is a commentary. In fact, it is one of the most authentic and earliest commentary on Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra, we know that is the founding stone. It is the base of all Indian aesthetic theories. So Abhinavagupta just not elaborate, just not explain Bharat's ideas, but he reinterpret them in newer condition, because Bharat had composed almost 600 to 700 years earlier. So many things changed. So Abhinavagupta reinterpret them through the lens of his own intellectual insights. Then at numerous points, he not only explains, he also diverges. He presents his own unique point of view. He introduces new concepts and practices, because basically the technique changed, the audience changed, the perspective changed, and there were so many things that were absent in Bharat's era. We can easily understand through, especially for English literature students, that just like Aristotle talked about tragedy and set certain rules according to the practices of his time, he didn't include that, he didn't mention that even a common man can be the hero of tragedy, but we later found that tragedies can be constructed by making a common man the protagonist. Similarly, Bharat has written according to his time, and Abhinavagupta does a great service, एक बहुत बड़ा contribution करते हैं by giving a new dimension to this great work. The greatest contribution, most significant contribution in this context is the introduction of Śānta Rasa as the ninth ras. Actually, Bharat has mentioned that there are 8 rasas, but somewhere in the text he has mentioned about the ninth ras. Unfortunately, we have lost the original work, so we have to depend upon the commentaries. And Abhinavagupta not only introduces Śānta Rasa, but he elevates it, he raises it to the central position in Indian aesthetics. Another very important idea which is introduced by Abhinavagupta is the concept of Sadharanikarn or universalization, which happens when a Sahridaya reader, a man of refined taste, reads or watches a literary text. If we talk about Natya Shastra, it is a very undeniable fact that it is the foundational text on Indian aesthetics, and it in its 6th chapter especially, it explores the concept of ras, which refers to the emotional essence or flavor experienced by an audience when engaging with a work of art. Why does we witness art? What it gives to us is explained by Bharat, that we relish art because it gives a kind of रस. Just like जब हम कोई चीज़ खाते हैं, we enjoy the taste. Similarly, when we watch a literary performance, it gives us a kind of different ras or flavor. So, ras can be defined as the aesthetic pleasure. It is not palate pleasure. It is not zuban ka swad. It is basically an intellectual flavor. It captivates, it attracts the spectator or the reader because a reader feels detached for that particular time from his surroundings, from his current situation, mental states, and becomes engrossed into that particular performance, forgetting everything, feeling that everything else is mundane and without meaning. Then Bharat categorizes that there are different kind of emotional responses, and he on this basis he categorized ras into 8 types, or he calls them ashtaras, and identifies that there is a particular bhav or emotion that create these ras. These primary emotions, which are found in every person, every living human being, they are known as sthai bhav because they are part of us, our existence. They are the dominant feeling, and these include rati or love, has or joy, shok or sorrow, krodh or anger, utsa or heroism, bhay or fear, jugupsa or disgust, and vismay or wonder. These are, according to Bharat, basic dominant emotions which are found in all kind of human beings. Now these 8 sthai bhavs gives right to a particular ras, each bhav a particular ras. So rati gives rise to shringar or romantic, has to hasya, shok to karuna, krodh to raudra, utsah to veer, bhay to bhayanak, jugupsa to bibhats, and vismay to adbhut. These are the 8 ras which are basically inspired by the 8 feelings. Or in a simple chart we can understand the sthai bhav and its related ras. So rati, shringar, has, hasya, shok, karuna, krodh, raudra, then utsa, veer, bhay, bibhats, jugupsa, bhayanak, and vismay, adbhut. Then bhav, this particular bhavna or emotion itself can be of three types. The sthai bhavs, dominant feeling, permanent emotions, they are 8. We have already discussed them. Then we have vyabhichari or sanchari or transitory emotions, which rises according to a particular situation, context. Bharat counts 33 of them, and then there is Sattvic Bhav, which again are of 8 types. These are involuntary physical reactions. Our face, our body react according to particular emotion. These are known as Sattvic Bhav. So total 8 plus 30 plus 33 plus 8, there are 49 bhavs, and they all contribute for the expression of ras. Now, this ras is not on one particular type of bhav. It is basically interplay of three elements. First is vibhav. Vibhav is the circumstance, the cause, the determinant that evoke a particular emotion. It can be a particular dialogue, a particular situation, a scenery, stage, character. Then there is anubhav. Anubhav is the physical or emotional response that is caused by the vibhav. And lastly, then there is vyabhichari bhav, the transient emotions that accompany the main mood. So basically, we can say that the vyabhichari bhav, the transitory, is changing continuously according to the context, what the spectator is watching, while vibhav causes these vyabhichari bhavs to happen, and by anubhav we present them. So these elements together work with each other, and they shape the viewer's mental and emotional experience, and all these three contribute to create a profound impact of ras. Now, this is the background. Abhinavagupta actually has given commentary on all the chapters of Bharat, but we are focusing on this particular part. First of all, he analyzes the views given by previous scholars on Bharat's Natya Shastra, then provides his own comments and explanation. Many times he seems vague and not very clear, but it is not because of his lack of understanding, but because of variety of views which he allows to come. He begins first by explaining the nature and the process of the aesthetic experience, how a spectator enjoys or relishes the literary form. Now, the aesthetic experience is an anand, is a kind of a joy. It is a unique bliss in its nature, and it is distinct from any other ordinary experience. Because it cannot be fixed into certain terms, it is similar to the mystic experience, and that is why it is alokik, which means which is beyond the ordinary experiences of human beings. So, Ras Anand is equivalent or is similar to the philosophical bliss Brahm Anand. Both those who relish Ras Anand or Brahm Anand, they are actually away from the mundane or the world, or we can say, or they are apart from their surroundings, and they are on a higher plane of enjoyment. Now, Ras, according to Abhinavagupta, is a stream of consciousness, which means a Chaitanya Vahini. It flows in our Chaitanyata or in our consciousness, and it is basically linked beyond time and place. You are not confined. A person who is watching a dramatic experience does not limit himself to that particular time, to that particular place. Thus, in this particular poetic experience cannot be enjoyed by everyone. Only a person with a refined taste who has the empathy with the writer, Sahriday, only that person can relish this enjoyment. He provides the detailed explanation of the step-by-step process that happens when a cultured spectator, when a Sahriday witness a literary work or a dramatic performance. And he illustrates this with the example of a shlok from Kalidas Abhigyan Shakuntalam. In the very beginning, there is a fawn, a deer, who is running away from an arrow shot by King Dushyant. So when a Sahriday, someone who is capable of understanding literature, who has this kind of sensitivity, who understands the art, he listens to this verse, he undergoes 4 stages of engagement. First is the common one. The Sahriday grasps the literal meaning, the surface meaning of this particular shlok or verse. The Vibhav and Anubhav initially highlight the emotional states of the character, what Dushyant is feeling, what the deer is feeling, how the other persons are there, they are reacting to these. These elements, these descriptions help the reader or audience to understand the character's mental condition in a general, in a literal sense. Is point per everyone is equal, because it is the very simple basic step to understand the literal meaning. Then the individual who is a Sahriday, who is not just an ordinary spectator, he imagine. This is where his spatial skills come. He is able to imagine the event without focusing on its specific details, like when the event took place, who is the protagonist, what is the name of the protagonist. Everything becomes sidelined, and he is able to recreate this scene into his mind. So then the next stage happen, and Sahriday experience a pure emotion, a pure because it is free of particular details, of particular person, of particular time, particular locale. Everything is diluted, everything is sidelined. Only the emotion, the sthai bhav, which has evoked this particular response remains. The minds of those cultured spectators that are engaged in artwork due to the poet's skill, they become even more focused on the evoked emotions, and this gives them an opportunity to enjoy immense pleasure from this heightened state of concentration. They are able, just like they are able to understand the essence, जो particular character का नाम है, situation है, वो सारी चीजें हो जाती हैं immaterial. They become of less value, and the sthai bhav, it becomes permanent value. The last stage, or the 4th stage, Sahriday deeply appreciates the pure emotion that is evoked by the performance or text. At this particular point, the spectator stops being an individual. His individual ego vanishes, and he merges himself into the collective sense of I. All spectators, even all the actors, they all merge into one unit. They all are experiencing something similar. Their personal prejudices, preferences, choices, they all vanishes, and this I is distinct from personal identity. So for the duration of this whole aesthetic experience, जो सहृदय का ऑर्डिनरी सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ है वो टेम्परेरीली सेट असाइड, उसी के साथ उसकी जितनी भी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, जितने भी उस समय माइंड के अंदर पॉइंट्स हैं, दे आल्सो गेट वैनिश्ड, एंड the spectator, the Sahriday, becomes one with this particular gathering. All the spectators become one, and this leads to a unique state of mental and emotional tranquility. He is vested of all the insecurities, all the worldly matters, and he becomes relaxed and enjoys the artistic performance. This is the process of Sadharanikarn or universalization, because individual lost their individuality and become one with others. Now, coming to the second concept, one of the most significant contribution of Abhinavagupta is the concept of ras, and with his expansion of 8 rasas originally outlined by Bharat, and he expands them to 9, and he introduces an additional ras as Śānta Rasa. Now, Bharat viewed Śānta Rasa, Shant, obviously, ras of peace and tranquility, not just an additional extra ras, but as a fundamental ras that underlies all other ras. Or you can understand the 8 other ras, they are on the surface, and beneath them lies the Śānta Rasa, which is pervading all of them, जो उन सब के नीचे है. So, because in contrast to more transient nature of other ras, चाहे रति है, चाहे हास है, चाहे शोक है, all these ras, what they happen, they are for a brief period. जितने टाइम वो ड्यूरेशन, वो परफॉर्मेंस चल रही है. लेकिन शांत रस, it takes a longer impact on the spectator, on the reader. It represents a state of mental calmness which sustain itself for a longer time. That is why it is more important, it is more significant than any other ras. Now he elaborates Śānta Rasa in these words: Moksha Dhyatma Samut Tattva Jnanartha Hetu Sayuktah Nai Shreyosopadishtah Śānta Raso Nam Sambhavati. Let's try to translate it. Śānta Rasa is arising. Arises from the pursuit of moksha, or which is the ultimate goal of human life, that is mukti or liberation, and adhyatma, that is spirituality. So moksha, adhyatma, it is connected with means of understanding tattva jnana, that is the ultimate truth, which is different from जो बाकी सांसारिक ज्ञान है उससे परे जो तत्व ज्ञान है. समुत तत्व ज्ञानार्थ हेतु संयुक्त. हेतु मीन्स इट्स पर्पस. व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ तत्व ज्ञान? जो इन पर्टिकुलर 3 गोल्स को सेट करे. पहला मोक्ष, दूसरा आध्यात्म, तीसरा तत्व ज्ञान का हेतु. नेय श्रेयसोपदिष्ट, इट इज द हाईएस्ट गुड, it is the best a human being can achieve, and it represents a state of inner peace and spiritual fulfillment. एक आंतरिक शांति, tranquility आती है, and then it is named Śānta Rasa and arises as a profound aesthetic and spiritual experience. तो अब इसको समझते हैं that शांत रस, जैसा नाम इंडिकेट करता है, इट इज अ स्टेट ऑफ माइंड दैट इज फ्री फ्रॉम इमोशनल डिस्टर्बेंसेस एंड कैरेक्टराइज्ड बाय इक्विनिमिटी एंड यूनिवर्सल कंपैशन. व्हेन अ पर्सन इज इन दिस मूड, he is not fluctuated or affected by the transitory feelings which are the reason because we live in a world where so many things happen. तो जो इमोशनल और मेंटल डिस्टर्बेंसेस होते हैं, दे आर बिकॉज ऑफ आवर अटैचमेंट. हम जो अलग अलग चीजों से अटैचमेंट रखते हैं, एक्सपेक्टेशंस रखते हैं, और साथ ही में एस्पायरेशंस रखते हैं, because of those things we have to feel kind of disturbances. Now तत्व ज्ञान जो होता है वो शो करता है that all these are मिथ्या. जब एक बार ये तत्व ज्ञान हमें मिल जाता है, the mind becomes calm. Unlike other rasas which are driven by specific emotions, जितने भी बाकी 8 रस हैं, they are triggered by one particular emotion like love or anger. Śānta Rasa actually arises by absence of such emotions. जब हमारे मन से काम, क्रोध, मोह, जुगुप्सा, हास, ये सारी चीजें जब हट जाती हैं, only then we can achieve the emotional calmness or tranquility. And that is why Abhinavagupta quotes this shlok by Bharat. न यत्र दुखम न सुखम न द्वेषो नापि मत्सरः समः सर्वेषु भूतेषु स शान्तः प्रथितो रसः. Where there is no duality, there is neither sorrow, dukham, happiness, sukham, hatred or dvesh or envy, matsara. Where there is equanimity, where sarva bhuteshu, towards all beings, sabka bhalao, then not merely an additional, it is the prathito, it is the primary, it is highest virtue of all ras. चलिए अब बात करते हैं कि अभिनव गुप्त शांत रस के बारे में कौन सा ऐसा पॉइंट है विच ही डिस्कसेस एंड इलेबोरेट्स द मोस्ट. इट इज रिगार्डिंग व्हाट शुड बी द स्थायी भाव ऑफ शांत रस. नाउ द प्रॉब्लम अराइजेस बिकॉज भरत मुनि हैज नॉट मेंशन्ड anything on this matter in 6th chapter, and there is some references. One more thing we must understand that Bharat Muni has written Natya Shastra, but Abhinav Gupta sometimes talk about Shantras in poetic experience also. So various critics have given their point of views regarding what could be the Sthai Bhav of Shantras. Now most scholars first of all consider that because this ras arises from vibhav, such as ascetic practice, or when we become detached from the worldliness, or what we call material possessions, knowledge of truth that we have discussed, tattva gyan, association with yogis, and purification of mind, chitta shuddhi. Only then obviously we can become shant in our mind. Then if it has to be presented on stage, शांत रस can be expressed through अनुभव. विभाव we have discussed, अब अनुभव इसको express कैसे करेंगे? Absence of desire, anger, devotion, and having compassion for all beings. Emotions such as nirved, or we can say dispassion, without any passion, smriti or remembrance, or stambh or like a stone, firmness, they can be considered the vyabhichari bhavs of this particular emotions. ये एक जनरली ये तो कंसेंस है कि ये शांत रस के अंदर होना चाहिए. नाउ सम क्रिटिक्स रिफ्यूज टू कंसिडर शांत रस एज अ सेपरेट रस बिकॉज दे पॉइंट आउट दैट asceticism and Vedic recitation they cannot evoke शांत रस. जैसे विभाव और दूसरे जो रसों के विभाव हैं, they quickly give rise to that particular ras, but it is not. When you are doing asceticism, ascetic practices, ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने आज ascetic practice कोई स्टार्ट करी, तप स्टार्ट करा, योग स्टार्ट करा, and you achieve mental calmness instantly. No, it not happens in this manner. Similarly, they also challenge that not only vibhav but anubhav is also very difficult in this case. Absence of desire, anger, they are considered anubhav. How to present them on stage? They cannot be effectively represented on stage, prayoga. And then this absence of desire or anger, they are also anubhav for other rasa. So these three are the objections of those critics who refuse to consider shantras as a particular different ras. They say that sleep or swoon, even they involve certain physical activity. They can be presented on the stage, but like absence of lust, how a character can represent this particular anubhav? And they also argue that those who feel distressed by the suffering of others, that is compassion, दूसरों के लिए मन में सद्भावना होना, again it means a kind of attachment. So they have not yet attained a state of inner peace, or we can say tattva gyan, and they have not understanding of the ultimate truth जो ये बताता है everything in this world is maya, mithya. So they are actually entangled, equally entangled in the chaos of worldly life. So their conclusion is that Śānta Rasa does not exist at all. Now, Abhinav counters this argument by stating that in Indian Vangmay, dharma has, a human being has 4 goals. First is dharma or duty, then earth, wealth, then calm, desire, and the last one is moksha. These are, and moksha is the most important or the ultimate goal of the life. Now, if the emotional states associated with goals like calm can be presented on the stage by the actors professionally knowing how to present this particular goal by poets and actors, and if their expression can be given the status of ras such as shringar, then mental states associated with the highest goal of life, moksha, why cannot it be considered and elevated to the status of ras? This mental state which works towards the goal of moksha, according to Abhinavagupta, is the sthayi bhav of Śānta. It is the dominant feeling that reside in all human beings, because like dharma, earth and calm, every human beings also want to attain liberation or moksha. So this particular feeling, this particular mental state is the sthayi bhav of Śānta Rasa. And because now there is a sthayi bhav, it means Śānta can also be a ras. So a new question arises, what is the term for this mental state? There are terms for mental state related with other ras like shringar or like viras, there is utsa, for shringar there is rati. So if there are terms for those mental state, what should it be called? Now some scholars argue that it is the complete detachment, nirved, which is interpreted sometimes like world weariness, and which is born through the knowledge of truth or tattva gyan. When you are able to understand that this world is just a meaningless web, एक मिथ्या वर्ल्ड है, everything here is an illusion, you become weary of this world and its worldliness, and you attain a kind of detachment or nirved. And this detachment is different, distinct from detachment coming out of poverty, क्योंकि उसके अंदर कहीं ना कहीं angst होता है, उसके अंदर कहीं ना कहीं there is an anger and jealousy. But that detachment is different from the detachment coming from the knowledge of ultimate truth, tattva jnana janya, and it makes it different from the ordinary detachment. To support this particular argument, Abhinavagupta highlights that Bharat has places nirved at a very particular situation. He didn't include it into sthayi bhavs, but he put it at the first position in the list of vyabhichari bhavs or sanchari bhavs. This positioning is very important, because Bharat always preferred to begin a new section of work with an auspicious word or manglik word. How and why he used nirved at the beginning of the list of vyabhichari bhav? He could have used any other, but because according to Abhinavagupta, Bharat thought that nirved is one of the greatest state, it is the link between the sthayi bhav and sanchari bhav. That is why he listed it at the beginning of the list of the vyabhichari bhavs. Now Other critics consider that okay, it can be the sthai bhav, but according to them, nirved is also vyabhichari bhav of other ras. And if it is placed in the list of vyabhichari bhav, then how it can be treated as sthai bhav? भाई दो आर्ग्यूमेंट दिए, एक तो अगर भरत इसको स्थाई भाव मानते तो 8 की जगह 9 स्थाई भाव लिखते, तो इन्होंने व्यभिचारी में क्यों रखा? और दूसरा, स्वयं जो भरत है उन्होंने निर्वेद को एक संचारी भाव, व्यभिचारी भाव माना है दूसरे रस, जैसे खास करके शोक के अंदर, तो ये कैसे पॉसिबल हो सकता है? Now Abhinav answers this objection also. He says that Bharat has allowed केवल एक exception, that जुगुप्सा cannot be व्यभिचारी भाव of श्रृंगार, केवल एक इसको छोड़कर all other स्थाई भाव of various ras can work as the व्यभिचारी भाव of other ras as per the requirement of the situation. So अगर कोई स्थाई भाव है एक पर्टिकुलर रस का, वो किसी दूसरे का व्यभिचारी भाव काम कर सकता है, या कोई व्यभिचारी भाव है एक रस का, वो किसी दूसरे का स्थायी भाव काम कर सकता है, सिवाय जुगुप्सा जो श्रृंगार का व्यभिचारी भाव नहीं हो सकता। तो निर्वेद एक स्थायी भाव भी हो सकता है और व्यभिचारी भाव भी हो सकता है। नाउ एक और पॉइंट अभिनव गुप्त जो हाईलाइट करते हैं, दैट दिस तत्व ज्ञान जन्य nirved, which comes with the realization of the ultimate truth of the life, it mitigates, it lessens the effect of other sthai bhavs like rati, and thus it is more potent, it is more powerful, it is more permanent state of emotion than any other sthai bhav. That is why Abhinav Gupta once again says that nirved should be considered as the sthai bhav of Śānta Rasa. The next objection against the use of term nirved is that if the knowledge of truth is the vibhav of nirved, or we say कि जो knowledge of truth है, it gives rise to nirved, how could vairagya, simple detachment, and other practices like samadhi, which have been also mentioned as vibhav of nirved, can be vibhav of nirved? अगर world कि जो अल्टीमेट ट्रुथ ऑफ नॉलेज है, अगर हमारा जो तत्व ज्ञान है वो निर्वेद का विभाव है, तो हम ये कैसे कहेंगे, जहां पर उन्होंने अन्य रसों के अंदर माना है कि निर्वेद को वैराग्य जन्म देता है, निर्वेद को समाधि जन्म देती है, देन हाउ दीज कैन बी द विभाव ऑफ निर्वेद? अगर वो इसका तत्व ज्ञान, इफ इट इज द विभाव, देन हाउ दीज कैन बी द विभाव? एंड इफ this detachment causes निर्वेद, अगर इस डिटैचमेंट तत्व ज्ञान जन्य से निर्वेद का अराइजल होता है, बिकॉज डिटैचमेंट लीड्स टू द नॉलेज ऑफ ट्रुथ। जब तक डिटैचमेंट नहीं होगा, जब तक आप अपने आप को पृथक नहीं करोगे संसारिकता से, नॉलेज ऑफ ट्रुथ नहीं मिलेगी। देन वी आर कॉलिंग अ कॉज दैट इज एक्चुअली कॉज ऑफ अनदर कॉज, विभाव दैट वुड बी कॉज and cause of the cause. What we are trying to understand here is that vibhav, detachment, gives birth to knowledge of truth, and knowledge of truth gives birth to nirved. So this detachment is both the cause and the cause of the cause, that is knowledge of truth. So once again it becomes quite illogical and confusing. So vibhav is actually refers to the direct cause of the sthai bhav and not a distant or indirect cause. Because of these reasons, nirved cannot be considered the sthai bhav of Shant. Instead, the knowledge of truth itself should be the sthai bhav. तो ये point करते हैं. One last objection against nirved is that it is attitude of complete detachment which helps the person gaining the knowledge. So it is vice versa. It is not that knowing the truth gives rise to nirved, but rather nirved or detachment that leads to the knowledge of truth. So moksha, it arises from the knowledge of truth, and it is believed that a person has only detachment, vairagya, and does not have the knowledge of truth, they cannot attain मोक्ष. मोक्ष के लिए केवल वैराग्य जरूरी नहीं है, तत्व ज्ञान की नॉलेज भी जरूरी है. True liberation comes only with पुरुष ख्याति और knowledge of truth. So Nirved is not the स्थायी भाव of Shant. Knowledge of truth should be the स्थायी भाव of Shant. But then he exemplifies that kind of nirvana which comes from the state of detachment when a person realizes the futility of their attachment to things that are unworthy. But here it is nirvana which is evoked by the vairagya, not by the knowledge of truth. So in this verse, a person is complaining, in vain did I milk a bull, mistaking it for a cow, bending under the burden of her full udder. In vain did I embrace an ugly eunuch, thinking him to be a young girl. In vain did I cherish a longing for a piece of glittering glass, thinking it to be a barrel. So basically the person is expressing his disappointment that how and in which manner he was duped by the worldliness. But this feeling comes after a long period of being misled. आप लगातार misled करते हो illusion से, false belief से. Then realization of truth in such cases leads to a sense of sadness, which is born out of one's awareness of one's own foolishness. It is not the fault of the world, it is the fault of your own false thinking that you wasted your time and energy for something which is meaningless. So this generates a kind of detachment. Now after this, जब निर्वेद पर डिस्कशन हो जाता है, there are other critics who consider that स्थायी भाव of शांत रस is that of sham or some or calmness. Some scholars point out that as nirveda arises from tattva gyan, it becomes similar to some or calmness. Atha shanto naam sham स्थायी भावात्मको मोक्ष प्रवर्तकः. Shant Ras is characterized by the स्थायी bhav of some. It is the promoter of moksha. So basically, this kind of tattva gyan, which leads to detachment, creates a sense of tranquility, and it becomes the स्थायी bhav. Sam and Shant, they are synonymous. Just like Has and Hasya, they are synonymous. Now, just like Has is bhav and Hasya is ras, similarly, Sam is bhav and Shant is ras. This is the line of argument these critics follow. But again, Abhinavagupta clarifies that Sam and Shant, they seem synonymous, but they are superficial. Their synonymity, their similarity is not actually. There is a fundamental distinction between Shant, which is ras, and Sam, which is स्थायी bhav. Because Sam is siddh, which is already achieved, accomplished state, while Shant is sadhya, a state which is to be achieved. Sam is lokik, it is attained in this world, whereas Shant is alokik, it transcends you to the physical limits of the world. Sam is sadharan, it can be experienced, realized by any person. Shant is asadharan, only a sahriday can experience this. So Sam and not nirved should be considered the स्थायी bhav of Shant, or we can say moksha. There is some confusion regarding why Abhinavagupta uses these terminology. Then he says any of the स्थायी bhav, whether it is love, rati, or has, or vismay, it can act as the स्थायी bhav of Shant, because Shant is not a particularly situation oriented ras. It can be generated by anything. Like a person may achieve moksha, or we can say gain knowledge of truth by recognizing the peculiarity of worldly things, the absurdity of this world, that is hasya. the world as full of sorrow only, that is shok, viewing worldly events as harmful and reacting with anger, that is krodh, fearing sensory objects, that is bhay, feeling disgust, that is jugupsa, towards things like youthful women, even though they are generally desired by others. So this feeling of liberation from the world can be evoked by any of the ras. They can lead to a spiritual freedom. But now the question is, if one of sthai bhav, such as rati, were considered to be the sthai bhav of ras, then the counter emotions, we can say different emotion, would cancel with each other. For like has will be cancelled by shok, veer will be cancelled by bhay. So it will be impossible to identify the single sthai bhav of shant, which should not be the case. Now, sthai bhav associated with shant could vary depending on individual perspective, just like we have seen. किसी पर्सन के लिए हास हो सकता है मोक्ष के लिए तरफ ले जाने वाला, तो किसी के लिए शोक हो सकता है. सो देयर कैन बी infinite interpretation of Śānta Rasa, which is again disservice to this particular shant. Then in this case, there are others who suggest that all sthai bhavs like radi and krodh, has, they blend into each other and make a unique mixture, a blending, a concoction, that is primary emotion of shant, just like different flavors mix in a drink. Now this idea is also problematic because different emotional states cannot exist simultaneously in mind. A person can perceive or experience only 2 or 3 types of similar kind of range of emotions, not contradictory emotion at the same times. This theory is not practically convincing. So Abhinav then makes it clear, ultimate means to achieve moksha is the knowledge of the truth, and this knowledge of the truth should be considered sthai bhav. So there is a significant difference between this knowledge of as a sthai bhav and other sthai bhav like rati, because other sthai bhav rise and fade and are temporarily attached themselves to the atma, which remains unchanging. उनका तो एक बहुत ट्रांजिटरी स्टेज होता है, वो पर्टिकुलर उन विभाव से उत्पन्न हुए, अनुभव से एक्सप्रेस हुए और फिर ड्यूरेशन के बाद खत्म हो गए. नॉलेज ऑफ ट्रुथ, एक बार आपने वो गेन कर ली, इट बिकम्स द फाउंडेशन ऑफ ऑल इमोशंस एंड इट रिमेन्स स्टेबल. इट डज नॉट फ्लक्चुएट्स कि अभी ज्यादा है अब कम हो गई. इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट. And this knowledge transforms all the states of minds like love and into transitory feelings. It is unnecessary to treat knowledge of truth as a separate sthai bhav in addition to the 8 traditional ones. There is no need for this particular one. So just like generic quality of bullness is not considered as a third. For example, there can be a lame bull, there can be a dehorned bull. These are 2 types of bull. But is bull different from any of these 2 bulls? No. Similarly, rati, shok, bhaya, jugupsa, veer, they can be different type of emotions. But what is the base? What is the underlying corner of these things? It is the knowledge of truth. It is not something additional, but it is the base of all the emotion. And then there are critics who says that some scholars criticize by saying that a spectator who experiences Śānta Rasa cannot experience Anubhav because there is complete absence of action. Such a spectator would be unable to sympathetically connect with the actions of the character, because not everyone is inclined to sympathize with everything situation. A person with heroic nature may not emotionally respond to a character evoking fear. So heroic or bhayanak वो साथ नहीं जा सकते. But Abhinavagupta explains that a literary work where Śānta Rasa is portrayed, other rasas are also, like Shringar or Veer, and work is designed to address not one particular goal, moksha, but various human goals. So the aesthetic experience of work may be rooted in शांत रस, but it does not mean कि बाकी जो रस हैं, बाकी इमोशन है, वो एक्सक्लूसिव है, वो इससे एक्सक्लूड होने चाहिए. These emotions arise from shant due to their particular vibhavs, causes, but when these causes cease to exist, जब उनका duration खत्म होता है, the emotions dissolve back into shant. This is the most important point made by Abhinav. Punarnimita paye cha shant avopliyate. When the causes disappear, they dissolve back into shant. Since Shant is the foundational state, अब ये साबित कर दिया है, by all shared by all other rasa, so it would be incorrect to assign it a particular color or deity, which is done with other ras, because as he says, he should display the 8 ras in the places allotted to 8 gods. Each ras has one particular god. In the center, he should display the Shantras, the place of Supreme God Shiv. So it is like the center, the axis, the core of all the other rasas. Think about a wheel. एक जिस तरह से wheel के center के अंदर एक स्पिंडल या एक्सेस होती है और बाकी सारी स्पाइक्स होती हैं. द शांत रस इज द सेंटर एंड ऑल अदर रस आर कनेक्टेड विद इट. Now the significance of Shantras is highlighted in the following verse. Buddhi indriya karmendriya samrodha adhyatam sansito peta sarva prani sukh hitta shant raso naam vigyeyah. Shant ras is to be considered as that which is endowed with the restraint of intellectual and sensory organs. बुद्धिन्द्रिय इंटेलेक्चुअल, कर्मेंद्रिय सेंसरी ऑर्गन्स, दोनों को क्या करता है, ये आध्यात्म की तरफ ले जाता है. वहां पर इसका संस्थापन स्पिरिचुअल में, और हैप्पीनेस एंड वेलफेयर, सर्व प्राणी सुख हित, सभी प्राणियों के सुख हित के लिए जो रस आगे लेकर जाता है वो शांत रस है. So thus not only expands on Bharat but also interpret him in light of his own experience and knowledge. इनकी जो कमेंट्री है वो डायनेमिक और इवॉल्विंग स्टेट ऑफ आर्ट ऑफ हिज टाइम, भारत से कैसे आगे बढ़ गई है, rather than just a description and commentary on Natya. Then his influence has been profound and pervasive. Succeeding generations of writers on Natya have been guided by his concept, theories of ras, bhav, aesthetic and dramaturgy. Dr. K. Krishnamurthy talks about his contribution when he writes, if Bharat is the father figure, hallowed by, respected by tradition, revered, respected by later writers, Abhinavagupta is the sole interpreter to us, who is not only of the Bharat's thought, but also of the writers, those authors over several centuries. Time of Bharat and Abhinavagupta, उनके बीच के जितने writers हैं, उनको भी represent करता है, because he sums up all tradition of various schools and enlivens it by his own illuminating and original thinking. That's all, dear friends, in today's class. Keep watching, keep supporting. Thank you.